Hello, everyone, and welcome to this live interview with Bryan Cranston, the third event in IFF's Digital Speaker Series. I'm Sasha Pinto, a junior here at Brown, and one of the directors of the IB Film Festival. And before I introduce our guest who needs no introduction, I'd like to give a shout out to the wonderful people at the Rhode Island Free Clinic, which is the terrific organization IFF is supporting during our film festival. So we hope you'll check them out on our website because they're providing an invaluable service to so many people in Brown's hometown, where we've all left a little piece of our hearts during these challenging times. But now, let's talk about Bryan Cranston. He's received an Academy Award Best Actor nomination for his role in Trumbo. He's a New York Times bestselling author, and he's starred in far too many films to name, from Argo to Godzilla, Little Miss Sunshine, The Infiltrator, which he also executive produced, The Upside, Isle of Dogs, and dozens of others. On Broadway, he's dazzled audiences in 2 different productions and picked up Tonys both times, plus he's been awarded every other honor from Golden Globes to Screen Actor Guild Awards, not to mention 4 primetime Emmys for that little TV series we just couldn't get enough of, Breaking Bad. And with that, I am thrilled to introduce Mr. Bryan Cranston.
Hello. Hi, Sasha. How are you?
Hello, Bryan. I am great. Thank you so much for joining us. Let me just start by saying how incredibly generous it is of you to be here with us today. We really appreciate it.
That's all right. I'm not wearing any pants. I just put a shirt on. So
Oh yeah, me either. We're the same. So tell me, how have you been spending your time in seclusion?
It's really interesting because a part of me is grateful for the pause that's put on the entire world, that I can read things that I wanted to get to. I have an art project. I'm taking a lot of walks. I'm reading and writing. And then on the flip side of that, I'm worried for people and the pain and suffering that thousands and tens of thousands of people and have been suffering just in our country and then around the world. This is the most amazing and unique event that I've ever experienced in my life. I hope it's the most in my life. It's a very challenging time, and hopefully it'll bring out the inner angels in many of us to realize what about life is important, how to group, how to take care of yourself and your family. So it's a unique time.
Yeah, definitely. I couldn't have said it any better. But I've been isolated with my family 24/7 for almost 2 months now, and not that being in such close quarters has driven us to drink, but we have discovered a family favorite, which is your terrific Dos Hombres Mezcal, and I happen to have a bottle here just in case for emergencies. You never know.
Sasha, we don't want to use this time to do self-promotion.
No, just a little bit, because the reason I'm mentioning it is, for those of you out there who don't know, Bryan and his Breaking Bad co-star Aaron Paul launched this wonderful mezcal company last year, and during this crisis, they've been donating 100% of its online sales to some really important charities. So Bryan, why don't you tell us a little bit more about what you're doing?
It feels like sometimes there's nothing that you can do, that you're in your house with your family and there's a world going on, and the first responders are putting their lives in jeopardy and going to work and absolutely exhausted by the end of the day with the stress and the actual hours. And I feel a little guilty about that. And I wanted to, so I talked to Aaron and I said, let's just give out, let's just sell as much as we can online, and whatever we make, we'll just give it to 3 different organizations. One of them is, 2 of them have to do with the hospitality society. So we have the Bartenders Guild, which goes to an emergency fund for all the bartenders in the country who are now currently on hard times and need rent money, need grocery money. And the second charity that we're giving to is also deals with hospitality, and that's for waiters, waitresses, busboys, dishwashers, and anybody in that hospitality, clerks at hotels and things like that. And the last is the America's Food Bank. So that we split it up in 3 ways: 100% going equally to all three of those charities.
Yeah, that's really wonderful. And I hope everyone rushes out and or online, don't go outside, rushes online and picks up
Online,
a bottle.
dos
But of course,
hombres.
yes, but not underage students, of course, because there's never any drinking in college, right? So let's
Good.
put this away. But moving on. So while we've been sheltering in place at home, everyone's been watching a lot of television. And as you probably know, a film that shot back up to the top of the charts is Contagion, where you play a Navy health expert in a pandemic that just feels eerily like a blueprint of what's happening today. I even read that people are reaching out to Scott Burns, the screenwriter, for health advice. I mean, it's kind of crazy. So what do you make of this surge of interest in Contagion? And more importantly, how do you think this crisis is going to affect the film industry?
Well, it already has. It's affected every industry, and the film industry is not immune to it either. I was shooting a limited series down in New Orleans when we got shut down. And that was for Showtime. And I'll have to go back, and we have 6 more weeks to do at some point, but we don't know when. When is that going to be? When is it going to be safe for the crew and the cast to be able to reconvene? And then again, it might be easier for some of the crew members to stay 6 feet away and to wash your hands and to wear gloves but cast members can't. We have to take the mask off. I do have a love interest in this story, and we do kiss, so there are issues like that are unique to our business that we have to figure out, and no one really knows all the answers yet. It's all speculation, just like all businesses. We're hoping that in time, the fog will lift and we'll have some clarity on how to proceed. I think until then, we just keep listening to the health experts and take their advice on what to do and use common sense. Contagion was fun. It was a very entertaining read for me, and that's why I wanted to do it, because it felt authentic. It felt like this could happen, and we shot it about 10 years ago, and since then it has actually become a reality. And the origins of that disease was very close to what the COVID-19 turned out to be. Right. So maybe a cautionary tale, and hopefully there's a silver lining in this, that we've learned from that and be prepared or better prepared next time.
Yeah, absolutely. It's eerily similar. But moving on to a more lighter topic, like everyone's favorite sociopath, Walter White, because Vince Gilligan, the creator of Breaking Bad, of course, once said something very intriguing about you. He said you are the only actor who can pull off the trick of being both loathsome and sympathetic at the same time. And he has no idea how you do it. So we'd love to know too, how did you get your audiences to root for such a hateful character?
First of all, I think the combination of being able to pull off loathsome and sympathetic is why I've been married for 31 years. My wife vacillates from one to the other. Can't quite make. I think what Vince Gilligan was able to tap into, and became very apparent in the pilot episode and going forward of Breaking Bad, was the duality of life, that human beings are not just one thing. I am not just an actor. I'm also a husband, a father, a neighbor, a son, a brother, and many other roles that I play in life. I'm not always sincere or serious. I like to be silly and funny at times. So that's really the makeup of a normal human being. And so he tapped into that. He tapped into the ability to have this man go on this journey. But it's really very structurally sound. The reason that audiences stayed sympathetic toward him is because of the setup. There's a man who's trying to do the right thing. You had sympathy for him. He's getting ridiculed by his students. He had to have a second job in order to make ends meet, and even further humiliation by students. He has a son with cerebral palsy, and he needs extra money for that. It's indicative of the lack of appreciation for teachers, which I think is going to change now.
Yeah, I think so
Just,
too.
just ask all those mothers and fathers who are homeschooling right now. They're going, when is it over?
I know.
Love their kids, but it's separate. The teachers, and so hopefully there will be a new appreciation for the teaching industry. And anyway, so that seed was planted, that he's a good guy. He's trying to do his best. He has a love for a science that no student in his class cared about. And he's lonely. He's eating his sandwich by himself. And you felt for him. Then he's told he has terminal cancer. So by then you're going, this poor bastard. Oh my God. You just felt for him. And then even his decision making to do something that he knew was illegal and wrong, and yet he was willing to put the blinders on for this period of time because he needed to leave something for his family. So he was altruistic at the beginning. So that reeled the audience in. And then once Vince Gilligan was able to set that hook and completely capture the audience, then we just started pulling him and allowing the character of Walter White to change and to grow despicable. But then by then the people couldn't stop watching it. We were deep into it, and he's poisoning children. He's doing, it's like, oh my God. Yeah, so that's how we did it. It's very careful and well-crafted, talented screenwriting.
Right. Well, you make it sound so easy, but gosh, I'm sure it was not. Shifting gears a bit, the audience today is mostly college students on the cusp of choosing their life's work, and students are always interested in hearing how other people got started. And I understood that you had been heading towards a brilliant career in police science, but then made a sudden pivot into acting. So what brought about that change?
Girls.
Well, thank goodness for those girls.
I'm 19 years old and I'm going to a junior college for a couple years before I transfer with my police science major, because I was broke. I didn't have any money. So I had to try to augment the cost somehow. And by just going to university for 2 years, that was going to be the way. Second year of this junior college, I took a class in acting because I was told I needed to have electives, and okay. And acting class. Oh, and I was in a scene. I was just handed out a scene because I happened to be standing next to this particular girl. She and I got the scene to read together, and I'm nervous and looking around, and I look down, and on the top of the page it says, "A couple is making out on a park bench." I'm 19 years old, and I look over, and she's really cute, and I thought, oh my God. What do I do? What do I do? I'm just going to go for it. I'm just going to go for it. And by the time we were called up to do our scene, I thought, here it goes. Here it goes. I'm going to go for it. And before I can kiss her, she's onto me. I mean, all onto me. Arms, legs, tongue, body, kissing, moving. I'm kissing and kissing and kissing. And then I feel this tapping on my leg. And I didn't quite know what she was hitting me for, so I kind of tapped her back. I didn't know, is that a spanking thing? I'm not quite, is that what it is? I was pretty innocent, and then I realized, oh no, she's telling me to get on with the scene. I have the first line. It's a scene where my character needs to talk to her about maybe seeing other people, not maybe breaking up, and so I had to stop the kiss and say, look, we got to talk, and so I got flustered and I lost my place and I was hyperventilating. I finally got into a rhythm and it went okay. The scene went okay. And at the break, I came up to her and I thought, this is going to be the easiest date I can ever ask for because she really likes me. I'm positive she really likes me. So I walked up to her and I said, so I thought worked pretty well. And she goes, well, it was a little rough in the beginning. I went, oh yeah, sorry. Yeah, but I think it turned out okay. And she goes, yeah, it did. I go, good. Hey, do you want to have lunch sometime? and she looked at me like I was a lost puppy. It seemed like she wanted to reach out and pat my head and go, and she said, "Oh, no, I don't. I have a boyfriend." And she goes, and she was uncomfortable, so that she said, "Excuse me," and she left. And I went, "Oh my God." I would have bet any amount of money that this 19-year-old girl liked this 19-year-old boy, and we'd have gone out. I was absolutely certain of it. And then it dawned on me, she was acting. And I completely believed it. And I thought, oh my God, how could I not have seen that? It was so believable. I really believed she enjoyed kissing me, but it was acting, and it spun me around. I couldn't get my footing. I was, as you can imagine, you're so susceptible to thought and ideas anyway at that age, as you know very well, going to school. And so I just had to push the pause button. I had to figure out what was going on. So I didn't end up finishing the 2 years at a university of police science, because I really didn't think that I wanted to be a policeman anymore. So I had to go, okay, wait, let me just run away. So instead, I hopped on a motorcycle and I left the state of California for 2 years. And I traveled around trying to figure out what it is I wanted to do, and how I should approach it. And that's when I stumbled on I kept thinking about that acting experience. And I said, okay, if I'm going to do this, I better learn how to do it really, really well.
Wow. That's an incredible story. And my gosh, look at you now. But it took a while, right? You weren't always a household name. In fact, I found your hemorrhoid commercial from the 1980s. But didn't things change when you adopted a new philosophy towards auditions? And maybe you can tell us about that strategy, because I think it would work in any industry.
Well, thanks for bringing up my hemorrhoid commercial.
Things live on the internet forever. What can I say?
Forever. But when I did it, I didn't think they would. Yeah, that was it's just a job. You do a gig. But I think this piece of advice is the best thing that came to me. And it came to me through a bunch of different sources. It was in the 80s, and there was a lot of self-help people around. Marianne Williamson, who ran for president, was a self-help person. Leo Buscaglia and Wayne Dyer, and there's just a lot of people who you're getting out of the 70s, and your parents will tell you you're getting out of the 70s, very me generation, very disco, and you're trying to figure out who you are, and
Right.
what's your purpose in life. And for men, we were trying to figure out, how do we mature? How do we elevate ourselves and become more enlightened human beings? And so we would go to these seminars, and we'd learn all these kind of little tidbits of information. And all of a sudden, I started putting these tidbits of information together, and it came up with this philosophy, really, of how to approach my work. And I think it applies to life. And that is, when you're going on a job interview, like for me as an actor, it was an audition. And you're going on a job interview, they're casting a movie, or if you're going to apply for an internship, or you're a writer, or you're a director, or you're a lawyer, whatever you do, and you're going on a job interview. Well, you look nice, you present yourself well, but the fact remains is that if you're wanting or needing something from someone else, you are giving up of your power. And I would go into an audition hoping that they would like me, and they might really consider me for this job. And I'm sure I was sending off an energy of need.
Yeah.
And whenever you send off an energy of need, the other person has more reticence of giving it to you. I'd rather, when I cast now in film and television, when I'm casting, I'm more attracted to someone who comes in and doesn't need it. So I started to put this together, and what I realized is that I was doing it all wrong. Instead of going into that office to try to get a job, I need to go into that office and do my job, which for me was to create a character that served the text of the play, that was interesting. And I kept working on it until I felt there was interesting little twists to what I did that it would get the attention. It doesn't circumvent hard work. There is no magic elixir or dust that will do it. It's all hard work. I've never, ever worked with a genius. Everybody has to work hard. So there's that.
Yeah.
But at least this changed my approach, that I'm going to go into that room and I'm going to offer them something. I'm going to offer them an option. I'm going to offer them possibilities of considering me and my ability, my talent. And that's no different than any other job interview. If you turn it around in your head and say, I'm going to go in there and offer them an opportunity to solve their problem, they need to hire another lawyer. And why not me? I'm going to give them plenty of reasons why they should consider me.
Yeah.
There's a fine line. And what I want to make sure you do is that you embrace and accept your true value, that your talent and your intelligence and the time you took to develop yourself as a human being is valuable. It's not boastful. It's not chest pounding, look at me. It's just quietly confident. And if you present quiet confidence when you walk into that room and meet those people who could hire you, and you give them of yourself, and you give them, for lack of a better word, a gift, you give them an offering that they can take, that's for you. This is what I worked up for this interview. I hope you enjoy it. I had a good time doing it. Thanks a lot. And you leave. And often when I feel that from someone, I go racing down the hall to stop them. So that's it. If you can get in the sense that you're going into a room to give them something, not to get something. If you can really take that in and really believe it, it's going to change the way you look at things for the rest of your life.
That is really terrific advice. Wow. And there's not a single person out there who wouldn't benefit from that in one way or another. And staying on the subject of acting for a minute, it's interesting because the New York Times Magazine once wrote that you come from the quote unquote commitment school of acting, which includes everything from writing your own backstories for characters to questioning writers when you can't resolve an issue in the script. And talk about total commitment, you even filmed a scene of Malcolm in the Middle covered head to toe in honeybees. So would you agree with the New York Times assessment? And can you tell us more about your approach to acting?
Well, any of you acting students there at Brown, you have far more formal acting training than I've ever had. So there's that. And that's good. That's great. It doesn't equally translate to, oh, I'm going to have a career, I'm going to work. No, but you're developing your foundation. Because I was starting off on the direction of becoming a police officer, then going, oh, wait a minute, maybe not, I want to go in this direction. And then starting off, I had to kind of piecemeal my foundation. And it took a little longer to do that. And sometimes you make your foundation and then realize, I want to change that. So I dig up something, get rid of something, and create something more. I write backstories to every character that I play. I do involve myself. I just think that it's easier for me to take ownership of a character after reading and developing a character from a script if I'm directly involved in the project from as early as possible. That's for me to understand him better and to be able to present ideas and options for our writers and our directors to be able to bring it to fruition when we go to shoot it. Staying involved. I love this. I love what I do. I'm going to continue to do this as long as I can, as long as I'm healthy. May that be for a long time. But
Yeah.
I look forward to going to work. I absolutely do. I look forward to giving notes on a script. I look forward to watching cuts of a thing. I look forward to being on Broadway on stage and being with a company of actors that you make a family. Um, it's been a great life. It's been an incredible journey, and I'm very grateful.
Yeah. But Brian, you didn't tell us about those honeybees. I have so many questions. Why were you covered in bees?
Okay, so I got the reputation on Malcolm in the Middle for 7 years that I would do anything. And basically I would. So Linwood Boomer, the creator of Malcolm in the Middle, came to me and said, let me ask you a question first. Would you consider, and he showed me a picture, would you consider doing this? And he showed me a picture of a man completely covered in bees, and all you saw was that, his face. It looked like chainmail, like I was in King Arthur and the Round Table or something. And I said, yeah, I do that. So he goes, okay. I said, why? He goes, well, I don't know. I first had to find that out. So they reversed engineered that. That episode of Malcolm in the Middle was first started with that image. Like, if we end with this, how do we justifiably get to that point? So they had to reverse engineer the entire story to figure that out.
Oh my gosh. And I think Brown Control actually has that picture if they could pull it up. But did you get stung?
Yes, I got stung twice. Yeah, those are all bees from the waist up. They put little of their queen's pheromones on top from a little eyedropper, and the bees love it. And they're just like about 3 inches thick, all moving. It felt like you were in one of those brownstone chairs, those where it vibrates, those chairs, it vibrates and heats up. It felt like that. It was actually very soothing. But the beekeeper said, if you get stung, let me know, and I will come and I'll extract the stinger right away so that the sting isn't as powerful. And one time in the scene, as you can see, I'm out like this, and I had to stay that way for the 2 hours that we shot. And I had to turn around in the scene. Well, a bee, without me seeing it, because I couldn't do this,
Right.
there were bees all in here. So I had to just turn around like this. And I didn't know that a bee had crawled into my crotch and stung me and the boys.
Oh my gosh.
So now, one thing I learned, when you have tens of thousands of stinging honeybees on you, is that you shouldn't be surprised if you get stung. It shouldn't be like, what's that? It's like, and it wasn't. It was interesting. I felt it, and I went, oh, I think I got stung. And the beekeeper came over and, yeah, where? And I said, in my scrotum. And he went, sorry.
Oh my gosh.
Can't help you. And I went, yeah, okay.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Wow.
The stinger is still in there.
Oh wow. Oh, ouch. Okay, moving on. Well, that is an unbelievable story. So I know you've done a great deal of voice acting in some pretty high-profile animated films, from Power Rangers to Kung Fu Panda, Madagascar, Wes Anderson's Isle of Dogs, with Scarlett Johansson as your love interest, no less. But what is it like getting a story across using your voice as opposed to being on camera?
Well, from the actor standpoint, there really isn't much difference, except that you have to rely on your writer and directors much more. For instance, with Isle of Dogs, Wes Anderson is an auteur, a writer, director. And basically, you just say, you do the trust exercise. You go, I'm in your hands. What do you want me to do? How do you want me to do it? I'm all yours. So as I'm starting to write a backstory for my character Chief in that, I was kind of hitting a wall, because I go, well, I don't really know, but I just would write things down and I check with him, and he goes, it's largely not useful. And I go, okay, all right, because he had the story completely in his head. And when we were recording, by the way, I was in the recording booth with Edward Norton, Bob Balaban, and Bill Murray and myself, Jeff Goldblum. I mean, it was a great. And when we were reading, I'd look over to Wes, and Wes would be like this, just listening, and I could see him then do this with his fingers, and he's picturing how he's going to animate it and how it fits in the story, and it was fun to watch that. But so animation is different, but you still, what they do all the time. And I also have an animated series called Supermansion out that I produce, and I'm a lead actor in. And what we do and what they do in all animation now is they have a camera or two cameras on the actor standing at the pedestal reading the lines with the microphone. And as we read it, we're acting it out. Don't you dare go near me. And they'll take that tape of the actor doing that, and they'll model the character's sneer and eyebrow movement from what the actor actually did. At least it gives them a springboard into figuring out how they want to animate it. It's fun.
Yeah. Wow. Watching the films, you would never know. It looks so easy and effortless, but that's incredible. Yeah. So I have my eye on the clock, and I think it's time to turn over to audience questions. And we have a few pre-recorded videos. There's some really good ones. But okay. So our first question comes from a Brown student who's actually a big fan of yours, and you might even be a fan of his because he starred in that wonderful family film Diary of a Wimpy Kid. So here's a question from Brown senior Robert Capron.
Hi, Mr. Cranston. Thank you for taking the time to talk with us today. My question is about your performance as Lyndon Baines Johnson, not only in the 2014 Broadway production of All the Way, but the HBO Films production of the same name. I was curious if in the jump from stage to screen, how your process as an actor changed, whether or not there were certain techniques or sensibilities that lent themselves more to one medium versus the other, and if overall in that jump you found one was easier or more difficult. Thank you.
It's a great question. The answer is really based in looking at the medium itself. Television and film is a visual medium, and the stage is a verbal medium by and large. I mean, you still have sets, but when you think about it, when you're sitting in the audience of a theater watching a live play, your own vision is that of a wide angle. You are looking as if you're looking through a wide angle lens. You can see the entire stage and the actors. You can even look at the actors on the stage, but you can't zoom in on the actors on the stage. You have a fixed lens. So it's saying, we want you to look at the whole thing, and it's very verbal. You have to listen carefully. Through lighting and sound and blocking, body positioning, we will tell you where and who we want you to look at any given time. So if there's a character who really needs to take focus, they'll come down stage closer to the audience, and the other ones will go upstage. In doing Lyndon Johnson from stage to screen, that was very much a part of the conversation with our director, Jay Roach, and being able to, what did we do on stage that told the story verbally? And then how does that transition to telling the story more visually? And so we worked with Robert Schenken a lot as well, who was also writing this screenplay for the HBO version of it. And he had to write it, he had to change it, knowing full well, he's so experienced, that he needed to infuse as much visual language as he had in the stage play with his verbal language. Hope that makes sense.
Yeah, that's so interesting. And moving right along, we'll take another question. Gosh, there were so many good questions that it was really hard to choose, but I think you'll get a kick out of this one. It comes from two sisters in San Francisco, Lily and Eleanor Windholtz.
You've directed a couple episodes of Breaking Bad.
And since most directors are guests and not a part of the crew,
What is it like being both the star of the show
and the director?
Can you tell us more about the transition from actor
To director,
and back again?
all in the same episode?
Which do you like more?
Okay, I think this one takes the award for the night.
Yay. Brava. Brava. What was the question? No. It's related. Being a storyteller, basically it starts with that. Actors are part of the storytelling component. A writer is another part, a director is another part, and a producer is another part. How it all has the amalgamation of individual parts that come together. Another component would be the crew and the talent that they have to bring it all together. So there's movable parts all over the place. It's so different when you consider that as when you consider someone as a poet, where it's all singular. So going from acting to directing is possible to sidestep a little bit. When you're an actor, your focus has to be on your character. What are the needs and wants of your character, and how does your character get what it needs? How does your character feel about each other character in the story? That sort of thing. You kind of put the blinders on and just focus on your character. A director has to think of everyone's character and slot them in from time to time. So if, for example, if a character is showing jealousy, but you know what, it's going to be stronger if that comes out a little later in our story and not so soon. So you might suggest that to push that back a little bit and just go with suspicion, perhaps. But in film, it's even more strange because you have to then know lenses and angles and what a camera can and cannot do. And you have to know the language of that.
Right.
Your director of photography, your first AD, your camera operators, they'll all be terrific help for you, and listen to them. And at some point, you just have to take a leap and have faith that you're going to work your butt off to get as much work done. I will confess that I feel energized and I love to direct, but it's harder for me to direct than it is for me to act, because it's a skill set that I'm still learning, quite frankly.
Right.
And I hope to get better at it as I go along.
Yeah, well, we'd love to see more directing as well. It's phenomenal. And let's see, we have another audience question from Matilda Vettelsborg from Copenhagen, Denmark.
You said that name very well.
Thank you.
Hi, Brian. My name is Matilda Vettelsborg, and I'm an actress. I would love to know if you have any advice for actors on how to approach a piece of dialogue or an action that doesn't seem to come organic or natural in the body in the present moment, while still staying true to the character and the script.
My advice for that. Oftentimes, I often say that for an actor, a professional actor, the hardest work I've ever had to do is on poorly written material. The easier work to do is when the material is so well written that you just follow the guideposts that are laid out in front of you. You allow yourself to be taken away by the story and you follow that journey. But we're not all that lucky to get really well written material. And believe me, you have to gain experience. So my advice to young actors is, if you have an opportunity to act, take it. Doesn't matter if you like the project or not. This is a good example. You could take a character in a student film or a independent little indie film, and you may not understand it, or the logic of the plot is kind of weak, or it doesn't make any sense, or you can still work on developing a character and stay true to that and see what you can contribute and accept the collaborative art form that it is. You can only control what you can control. So just don't worry about everything else. Just focus on what you can control and do your work and be on time, have a good attitude, be kind to each other and be respectful to everybody. And you can have a good long career. And I say that not as an offhanded comment. You gain a reputation by your work, and that gets around and people start talking. And I do too. When I hear of someone who I'm thinking of hiring, I'll look at their resume and I'll see who else they've worked with that I know. And I'll call them and I'll say, what do you think of him for as a person? Oh, stay away. He's a nightmare. He was late every single day and he never knew his lines. And he had a bad attitude. I went, ooh, wow. Okay. That's enough for me. So when I say be kind and respectful and be on time and know your work, that's job security for you. And that's what you should be doing no matter what line of work you intend to go into. So enough preaching.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's really important. It will be noticed. Your work ethic will be noticed. And the last point I want to make is that if you worked a long time like I have, it's not always going to be organic for you. There are going to be times when you have the flu, or when you didn't sleep the night before, your baby was up and or you just got bad news that someone is ill or passed away, or you're a human being and you can't just snap your fingers and right away the emotion is ready for me to be in this scene. Sometimes you have to lean on craft. So work on that. It's organic, if at all possible. And when that's not available, draw in your work talent, your experience, and your craft that you have developed.
Yeah, that's so interesting. And I'm curious, is there any role or character out there that you've been keen to try but haven't had a chance to yet? I mean, what about a musical?
Yeah, musicals scare me. And that's why I will probably do one in the not too distant future. I've got one in mind that I'm thinking that I might want to develop and be in, and it does scare me. I consider myself an actor who can carry a tune, but I need for the next couple years, 2-3 years, to work on it weekly and every day with rehearsal, and then go to a coach every week, twice a week.
Yeah, definitely.
So there are things in life that scare you, and yet you should still do, like a roller coaster. It's like,
I hate that.
But you know you're going to have fun. You know it's exhilarating. You know it's frightening at some point, and you have to do it. And then there's things that scare you that you absolutely should not do, and that's maturity. That's when you go yes to that, no to that. But sometimes you need to reevaluate and say, I know I said yes to this, and I know I said no to that before, but maybe let me think. Maybe I can do it now. And as you age and mature, it's good to try new things, to not be set in your ways.
Yeah. Well, between you and me, I was hoping for a reprise of the Brian King, like on Jimmy Kimmel. That was, oh my gosh, iconic.
That was fun to do. That was a lot of fun. You can YouTube the Brian King, the Jimmy Kimmel, Bryan Cranston, I guess. My sweet 60th.
Yes.
It was a takeoff of the, what was that, My Sweet 16, or that show that was on. And TV. So when I turned 60, we did that, and it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I recommend you look it up. It's very entertaining. Okay, great. We have another audience question. This one is from Pablo Richter, who's a junior at Brown studying public policy and theater. Okay.
Hi, Brian. My name is Pablo. I recently was doing my first audition ever and came across this video of you online giving advice to new actors on how to audition effectively. And I found it super helpful, and it got me in the exact mindset I needed. So I wanted to thank you for that. I was wondering what you see as productive things that aspiring actors can be doing right now in the reality of social isolation to kind of exercise that acting muscle, or I don't know, develop in other ways that could be helpful with all this time on our hands. Yeah, thank you so much.
Thanks, Pablo.
Hi, Brian. My name is Pablo.
He's back.
Thank you, Pablo. I know it's difficult. It's very difficult. I've always said an actor should never be bored because our job is to study human behavior and be able to file it away and pull it out when you need to replicate that behavior or simulate that behavior. Now it's a difficult time to do that, but it's also a very unique time in all of our lives. You guys are so much younger. I've never experienced this before. Hopefully that's the last we ever experience this, but we will get through it. And there are people in experiencing all different ranges of emotion right now. So I would say to you, young acting or writing or directing students, to try to find chat rooms and places where people are expressing themselves in a myriad of range of emotion. Some can say, I'm fine, it's no big deal, I'm good, I'm very, very aloof about it. To the other end of the spectrum, they could be terrified, and anything in between. So trying to find places where you can witness human behavior is very challenging right now. But that would be it. Watching movies and television shows, classics, and then reading and trying to do as much you can. And you know what you can do in your own backyard, perhaps, or friends, is and steal a an iPhone and make a. Don't steal an iPhone. First of all, I want to say don't steal an iPhone.
We won't.
Do not steal an Android. That's it. No. Well, you can make a movie. You can go out and you can do something today and make a little thing, make it funny, make some. I'm doing all kinds of videos for people for charity events and things like that. What's it? COVID isn't a funny thing. COVID is no joke. If you Google COVID is no joke, it's a show that's going to come on that raises money for first responders that my friend Tony Goldwyn is hosting. And I just thought of this idea that might be funny, but also addresses what lives we're living right now. And so you'll be able to see that. But it's keep your hands in it, keep creating. Don't stop creating, don't sit, don't rest. Find ways to create.
Yeah, totally. And now we have one last question from Maya Bolgetta. So Brown Command, if you could cue that up.
Hi, Bryan and Ivy League Film Festival. Thank you for doing this. I was wondering, what do you tell all of your actors? Like, what is the main few things you tell all your actors to get the best performance out of them? Is there a key phrase that you say? Thank you.
What do I say to my actors to get the most out of them? I threaten them. I think
as one would.
Yeah. I will kill you if you don't. Everybody works differently, and I don't want to do another actor's job. That's their job. When I go to work, I want actors to match what I learned from the great actors that I worked with, who came in prepared, loads of ideas. You don't go into work and wait for the director to tell you what to do or where to go or how to stand, and that's not acting. It is a union of ideas and thoughts and frustration. So I can't really say that I tell them anything. I will tell you, when I'm directing, there is a little trick that I do. If I'm at my wit's end, and let's say I used it before, but we'll use it again, jealousy. If I really want a character to give me a look at another character of real envy or jealousy, and if I'm not getting it, and I'll talk to them, I'll say, what do you feel? And really give us a moment of how you feel about that other character. And then we'll do another take. And if I'm still not getting it, I will go up to them and I'll say, we're going to do one more, but I really loved what you just did. You gave a little look of jealousy that worked just great. It's just fantastic. All right, let's do one more. And it's manipulative, I know, but we're on a clock. I've got to get moving, and I wasn't getting what I needed to get. So I planted the seed. And sure enough, when you start with that, sure enough, you get what you want, because they're thinking, oh, I did it. I didn't even know I did it. But I looked at her with jealousy. Okay, I'm going to give her that again. And it's like, and it's perfect. Anyway, pretend you didn't hear that, because other actors I work with, okay, they wouldn't.
No. I won't tell anyone. So, I mean, I'm curious, did you have any role models or mentors that inspired your work and growth as an actor?
There's a lot. In a comedy, I love Jack Lemmon and John Ritter and Dick Van Dyke and Peter Sellers. Dramatically, also, I love Spencer Tracy and Jimmy Stewart and Tom Hanks and just so many, Glenn Close and Meryl Streep, and now I've had the pleasure to work with a lot of them, and it's as much the genuineness of their person that taught me a lot. And that was, when I've worked with Tom several times now, and his professionalism and kindness and mutual respect for everybody and generosity is just a beacon of a guiding light to be able to live by. And it sure makes it easier. We could still do our work when you happen to be around jerks, but it just makes your life easier when you really like the people you work with, and go home and look forward to going back to work the next day. It just makes the environment so much better.
Yeah. And what about actors you're especially keen to work with? Because, the Ivy Film Festival could put in a good word for you, Bryan.
Wow. I'm not so much of into idolatry. I don't idolize anyone. I don't want to be idolized. I try to diminish that. I say we're all actors. We're all just trying to do our best and work. And I look for different opportunities. Like Williamstown, I would love to go to Williamstown, Massachusetts, and do a summer of theater there. And that's on my list. That musical is on my list. So I mean, there's several different things that I would love to try and and hopefully create the opportunity to do that. But it's a big tent. There's room for all of us. And I feel incumbent. I do feel that 19-year-old boy in that classroom kissing that girl and afterward realizing that she was acting was such a seminal moment to me. It spun me around and pointed me in the direction that I am in today, where I want it all. I want to have a stable personal relationship and be a good husband, be a good father, be a good citizen, and have a good career and be able to start a company and put as much passion into that as I would promoting a movie, and we have. And so it's just been a fun ride. It's a lot of work, but I love to work. It's been a grand experience, and I hope it goes on for a little bit longer until they tell me I have to stop.
No, never. Wow. I mean, this has been so wonderful, and we're nearing the end of our time. So let me ask you one more question for the road. You have lived such an amazing life with so many different chapters and opportunities and aha moments. So if there's one thing you could tell students who are about to go out and experience the world at the crossroads of humanity between a pandemic and a presidential election, is there anything you'd like to leave us with here tonight?
Yeah, I want you to know that you are living in extraordinary times. That I'm hoping, and I think it's true, that you may never experience this kind of upheaval in our health, in our country's defense, in the socio-political landscape. It's really, really unique. Take that opportunity, put your arms around it, learn by it, and know that in not the distant future, you're going to be talking to someone in an intelligent conversation that will say, what? Oh, I heard about that health thing. What was the health thing? And you're going to go, it's a pandemic. It was back in 2020. How old are you? Is what you're going to say. And they're going to go, 19. And you go, okay. Yeah, it was very serious. And oh, yeah, whatever. And you go, so just know that it moves fast.
Yeah.
Mark occasions, celebrate victories, celebrate lives, appreciate what you have, opportunity, ambition, and what you hope to accomplish in your lives. Appreciate that. But know it moves fast. Believe me, it moves really, really fast. And pretty soon you're sitting here doing a Zoom conference and you're 64 years old. I used to be the kid on the set. Yeah. So it goes fast.
Yeah.
Live well, be well, and I wish you all the best of luck.
Yeah. Wow. Absolutely. Well, I'm going to let that be the last word. And I'd like to thank the audience for joining us, but most of all, gosh, thank you, Bryan. Your presence has meant so much to all of us listening today, and especially to all of us at Brown University and the Ivy Film Festival.
Thank you, Sasha, and I appreciate everybody there. And be well. Have a great life. We'll see you around the corner.
Thank you, Bryan. Thank you, everyone, and
You bet.
bye for now.
Bye.